Petworking is presented by Maya Strategy Group, a leading market research and strategy consulting firm, helping clients in the pet care and animal health industries navigate strategic challenges for almost 2 decades. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petworking. I'm Peter Kensath, Vice President and Partner at Maya Strategy Group, just back from Global Pet 2024, and I am here with Dustin Dover, Chief Operating Officer at M-Fiber. Dustin and I met at the Pet Sustainability Coalition's Impact Unleashed conference last summer and had a chance to reconnect and walk the floor together at Global. I'm really excited to have Dustin on the show because prior to the Impact Unleashed conference last summer, I was not aware of the existence of a grass called Miscanthus, which is the backbone of M-Fiber. Miscanthus is a perennial grass. It's sustainable, and it is used as a fiber in making a lot of the pet foods that are out on the market right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Dustin. And Dustin, welcome to the show. Welcome to Petworking. And tell us a little bit about M-Fiber and Miscanthus and your place in the manufacturing and pet food production ecosystem.
First, Peter, just want to say thank you for taking the time to get to know me a little bit last week, as well as the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you talking on your show and introducing what we do and who we are to your listener base. Excited to open up to that. As Peter said, my name is Dustin Dover. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of M-Fiber. We're a vertically integrated ag business focused on growing Miscanthus in Southwest Missouri, with our primary focus in pet food and pet-related products. Miscanthus is a bit unique from a lot of different ingredients in the pet space. We work with local farmers right here in Southwest Missouri to establish and grow this grass that grows about 10 to 12 feet tall in the summertime. Our farmers are working on long-term contracts, 7 and 10-year contracts. You establish Miscanthus one time, and then you get a harvest every year, up to approximately 30 years. So it's much like the grass in your lawn. If you treat it properly, it'll be there year after year with very little work or input needed. So it's a highly sustainable fiber ingredient in pet food. I like to say we're the most sustainable fiber in pet food. We don't require a lot of nutrients. We don't require tillage of the soil every year. We don't require cutting down trees or pulping or using paper derivatives. One of the other unique things about Miscanthus as a fiber is it's not a byproduct. So you're not having to worry about whether or not the supply is going to be there based on other alternative uses for the main crop, say like a beet pulp, where you're reliant on the sugar beet industry and the pulp is the byproduct. We are purposely grown, fully traceable, fully sustainable for the pet industry. So we are consistent year after year, able to provide consistent supply, consistent prices, and long-term forecasting. So that's kind of the foundation of what we do, but I'm excited to dive more into the conversation.
Yeah, well, I think maybe a good place to start is, we have a variety of listeners on this show. We have people who are longtime veterans of the pet food industry, are very familiar with the manufacturing process. We have folks who are pet parents who tune in, listening for tips on responsible pet ownership, things on nutrition or insurance, and may not fully understand exactly how the pet food that they're feeding their pet is made. So maybe, if we want to start, talk to us about, why is it important to have fiber? And from what I understand, Dustin, there's kind of the dietary fiber component that Miscanthus brings to the blend, as well as fiber as a binding agent. So kind of talk to us a little bit about, why do you need this fibrous element in your pet food formulation?
So I think it's important to go back to understand a pet's gut and the way their body works, just very similar to ours. Fiber is hugely important to sustainable health within our bodies, and the same is true for the pets that we love. In the wild, wolves And carnivorous animals get their fiber from the hair and bones and things of that nature from the animals that they eat. But domesticated, our pets that we love, they rely on us to feed them a highly functional, nutritional diet, which includes all aspects, not just a protein source. And that's where fiber comes in. So a lot of times we talk about if your pet has too hard of stool or too runny of stool, those things can be directly impacted by fiber, just like we are. If we don't have the right fiber matrix in our diets on a day-to-day basis, then our gut's not healthy, and then nothing is healthy. None of our nutritional uptake from our gut system is going to be sustainable. So functional fiber, that's what we are. That's what we do best. We offer an isolate, a fiber isolate. So any one of your pet's diets, the diets behind me, any of these diets, they are able to utilize an ingredient like ours to say, you know what, we need just to tweak the fiber a little bit, up or down. We don't want to have to worry about protein or carbohydrates or sugars. We just want to worry about the fiber. They're able to choose an ingredient, Miscanthus, as one of the few ingredients that is really a fiber isolate. But as Peter mentioned, there's also a functionality standpoint for the manufacturing process. So as we've seen over the last 10 plus years, the industry move more towards a high protein, meat-based diet to optimize health for the animal. We've seen the transition away from other grains or other byproducts that were historically used in pet food when it was more of a feed. The old way of looking at pet food was pet feed, just like the farm store feed. And as we've really focused in on long-term health for our pets, we've started talking about it as a food product. And part of that is the nutritional aspect of the diet being higher in meat protein or animal-based proteins. Well, with that comes challenges in the process flow and manufacturing. So an ingredient like Miscanthus is highly absorbent. It can lock in moisture and really help hold the kibble or the diet together as it goes through a litany of manufacturing processes, whether it's cold pressed, raw form, kibble, baked, extruded, any of those kind of things. It really comes into a structural component as well that offers an internal fiber gut health standpoint.
So just to kind of further elaborate on that, Dustin, so when we have our kibble, and it's getting extruded, the miscanthus is one of the principal binding agents that's holding that in its shape, and it's the same as if for a freeze dried diet, or one of the big trends at Global Pet that we saw was kind of alternatives to freeze dried, with Nulo coming out with their new cold press. We saw Ziwi with their steam dried. We saw it was announced before the show, but one of the first times seeing it in person with Primal's Kibble in the Raw, where they're doing cold pressed and then freeze dried. But all of these diets need that binding agent to kind of hold their shape as they're pressed and put through the chub, so to speak, right? Um,
That's right.
and when we look at Miscanthus versus some of the other options that you alluded to, for binding agents that are out there, beet pulp or powdered cellulose, I think are the two big competitors to Miscanthus in the industry. But correct me if I'm wrong, neither of them have the dietary fiber benefit. They're a fiber solely for the purpose of a binding agent. And I think I saw on some of the materials that you sent me, there are studies out there, one from Kansas State, that kind of showed that Miscanthus, in addition to serving as a binding agent, also increased stool quality and contributed to that gut health with the dietary fiber perspective. And as we see so much focus on the microbiome and prebiotics, which is fiber, it seems like this is a much more viable alternative, both for use as a fiber in terms of a binding agent and also having that secondary nutritional benefit, or not secondary, that additional benefit of providing dietary fiber and better nutrition and gut health.
Absolutely. So, I mean, primarily that's what we are, functional fiber for the dietary needs of the pet. And as you mentioned, there's other ingredients out there that are used as a fiber ingredient. So as a nutritionist or as a pet food expert, you're looking at what tools can be used in your toolbox that do lots of different things, whether it's helping in the manufacturing process, whether it's gut health, whether it's sustainability focused. These guys have a big job to accomplish to be able to read the market and meet the needs. So those other ingredients certainly play a role in the pet industry. They provide dietary fiber value as well, just differently than ours. From a beet pulp, for instance, it's mostly soluble fiber. So Miscanthus is insoluble fiber. So your body needs both. So a lot of times when you see a diet with Miscanthus in it, you're going to find other fiber sources that bring that solubility to it. Powdered cellulose is an insoluble fiber, very similar to what we are. The big difference between them and us is our sustainability story. We're really focused on working with our farmers. We're really focused on being a highly sustainable crop. You get a harvest year after year. You don't have to, pulp it. That's a big deal. We don't have to go through harsh manufacturing processes. We're able to accomplish it very sustainably within the industry. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, and obviously, you and I met at the Pet Sustainability Impact Unleashed, and you are on the board of the Pet Sustainability Coalition. Um, and I think it is worth going through, in addition to the potential nutritional differences, the cost differences between Miscanthus and other choices of fiber available to pet food manufacturers, as well as the sustainability benefits, which are really quite profound. And what got me, when I heard your talk at PSC at Impact Unleashed, it really kind of was eye opening because we're not seeing this grass called out specifically. I think I saw for the first time post Global Pet, Nulo with their cold pressed. They had an article in Pet Food Processing, and Dr. Aldrich commented specifically that they had created a proprietary blend of miscanthus grass, chicory root, and pumpkin to support gut health needs as part of that diet. But for all the benefits it brings to the table, I don't think, I work in this industry every day and have for 15 years. And, until I saw your talk, that wasn't something that I was looking for on a label. And I think it's worth kind of going through the benefits that this brings, and the cost benefits. If for a lot of things you're trading off, in sustainability, you're paying more to do better for the planet. In the case of Miscanthus, you're half the cost of powdered cellulose, correct?
Yeah, that's what we say. We're roughly half the cost. I like to tell people anytime the talk to Impact Unleashed, I use my favorite line: doing good doesn't have to cost more. In our case, at least, I understand every product has a different position and startup and different things, but we've established this crop over the last decade. We've been able to really grow and stay ahead of the curve. Because we get a harvest every single year, we don't have to price it. And because of our manufacturing is super low intensity, we don't have to price it the same way as our biggest competitor, powdered cellulose. So, we're able to offer a truly sustainable, insoluble fiber alternative to what's traditionally used in pet food at a substantial savings in the marketplace. So that's exciting for us. It's exciting for our customers. But I think you're right, Peter. Most pet brands don't talk about the ingredients that are in their diets outside of the really high-end meat protein based diets. They're really excited when they use lamb or chicken or those things because that's what the customers know and are looking for. But a lot of the conversation doesn't stem further down that ingredient deck. If you grab a bag of your favorite pet food, dog or cat, and turn it around, you're going to see a whole litany of ingredients on there, but most of those aren't discussed in the public forum, so for customers to see. So you mentioned the article from Pet Food Processing and Dr. Greg Aldridge with Nulo. We love Nulo. They're a great customer, a great partner. They manufacture a great food product. We're super thankful for them, being open with their customers and sharing about who we are. You'll find other diets of them where they mention us on the front of the bag as a digestive aid and gut health, right on the front of the bag. So that's one of the few. I think the wall behind me, you can see just a whole host of different customers of ours, pet products that are in the industry already today that are ready to be bought by numerous different companies. All of these things on the back of the bag, you'll find Miscanthus grass in the ingredient deck. That's how our product is labeled in the ingredient deck. So it's all there, but very little of that information from the back or the side panel of the bag makes its way to the front or to the consumer facing conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And, I mean, I consider myself very privileged as a pet parent that I get to work in the industry, that I get exposed to these trends. And, a big part of why I started the show was, I want to make this accessible to other pet parents so that they can factor that into their buying decisions as well. Um, but yeah, I hadn't heard of it, so I would assume this isn't something that the everyday consumer is looking for. But you can see on the wall behind Dustin there, they're you're already in a host of brands. This isn't some fledgling movement. How long has M Fiber been around, Dustin? When did you found the company?
So in 2012 is when the company was founded. I came in 2015. In 2014, we kind of made our soiree into pet. We started doing a bunch of research with K-State, which you referenced at the beginning of the conversation, to show the effectiveness and the safety of miscanthus used in animal diets. Now there's research through multiple universities of multiple different types. I mean, it's been duplicated and created over and over again just to continue to drive home the fact that we're safe, we're reliable, and that we offer some real digestive value into the animal. So 2015 was really the big year when we started launching in pet. If you go on Chewy, you can just type in Miscanthus grass right in the search engine, and you'll see it'll bring up hundreds of products that are available with Miscanthus grass already in it. That's just a quick, easy way. We're in other, independent retail. Not trying not talk about them, but certainly love our independent retail partners. We're in all of that. It's just a little harder to find it, so you have to flip the bag around as you're shopping the shelves at retail.
Right. And and this is something where, if you find that, your choice of pet food is not using Miscanthus, that, obviously there's reformulation involved. So this isn't going to be an overnight thing where you can write into your manufacturer and say, hey, I'd appreciate it if you sub in Miscanthus for powdered cellulose or beet pulp. But um, it is, it does represent a potential cost savings for them to the tune of about 50%. And it's better for the planet, which we'll get into a little bit here, Dustin. Before we get too much further, I just want to, I think for the benefit of people, it might just be helpful. I'm going to share my screen here for a second and just, pull up some pictures so folks can see what Miscanthus looks like.
You mentioned,
I
Peter,
don't know if you have.
you mentioned there that that if you don't see it in your favorite brand, yeah, absolutely. Give them a call, shoot an email to them through their contact form on their page, and just know that like you said, it's going to take some time. You have reformulation, you have bag changes that are required for ingredient listing, but consumer advocacy for ingredients in their pet food is a great way to drive from the bottom up change with your with your desired brands.
Yeah. So this is what Miscanthus looks like, and let's talk a little bit about why are some of the reasons that pet food consumers, pet parents would want to advocate. We talked about the nutritional benefits, we talked about the improved gut health, but just comparatively to I think the one-to-one here in what was really kind of compelling for me in looking at it is powdered cellulose. So let's talk a little bit about how powdered cellulose is made, right? It comes from pine trees, so it involves logging and deforestation, which contributes to soil erosion, which puts emissions, from the logging equipment. Then you have to grind it down, and it's a byproduct. You're getting it from the pulp and paper industry, and there are all sorts of chemicals that go into extracting that. Um, I don't think a lot of people are aware the pulp and paper industry is the third largest polluter in, from an industrial perspective in the United States and Canada. Um, so, where we can, if there are environmentally friendly and environmentally advantageous alternatives like Miscanthus, which, it sequesters carbon, it's a perennial, versus a tree, you cut it down once and it's gone, and it's going to take 30, 40 years to grow another one to the point where it can be harvested. You're harvesting every year, um, and there's no chemicals there. I won't pretend to be an expert in you know, the production process of uh, yeah, Miscanthus fiber, but talk to us a little bit about, are there other differences that I'm missing there? Where would you say, you know, to me, it seems if we can avoid logging, we can avoid the use of chemicals, we can cut down on the industrial pollution from the pulp and paper industry, and we can switch to a viable, less expensive, more environmentally friendly alternative. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, we like to think so. So you did a great job there, Peter. If you wanna transition over and help us educate the marketplace, we'd be happy to have you. I think you're exactly right. That's the big thing between us and our largest competitor, is that we are focused on an annual sustainability number and how that we can drive that. So, like you mentioned, Miscanthus, you plant it once, you get a harvest every year for the lifetime of the crop. 30 plus years is what the research shows now. We believe it can actually be longer if it's maintained and treated well. So think about it like a tree that you have in your yard. Every fall, the leaves fall off the tree. They call that senescence. All of the nutrients go back under the ground into the root system, down through the trunk. The sap pulls all those nutrients back down in and overwinters it. Well, the difference is that's when we harvest Miscanthus. It's very brown, cane, bamboo-y looking cane. That's when we go in, we have our own employees, our own staff, our own equipment to harvest Miscanthus. And from there, we bring it into centralized storage and manufacturing locations to turn it into a flour, a very fine, very similar to what you would use in your kitchen, flour to be used in pet food. We have various different grades that we offer the marketplace, different products, but at the end of the day, it's everything we sell is 100% Miscanthus. We don't use chemicals of any kind, oils or processing aids of any kind. We're all dry manufacturing, very, very low on impact. We did an LCA back, probably 2018-19 timeframe, to show the sustainability standpoint between M fiber and powdered cellulose. So this is third-party data that drove this. So some of the high-end numbers, approximately 86% less fossil fuel in Miscanthus used through the growing, harvesting, and manufacturing process than powdered cellulose, 87% less greenhouse gases, and 98% less water. And I think the water is a really big topic that we have to talk about in our country, is how we use our water and where our water comes from and how sustainable it is to utilize and use that water. So we're proud that Miscanthus is a crop that doesn't require a lot of water to grow and requires absolutely no water in the manufacturing process.
I mean, that's huge. If you look at what the West has been dealing with in terms of drought the last several years, obviously we're California kind of got turned around with all the atmospheric rivers last year, but we're in a spot where weather patterns, there is a very inequitable distribution of rainfall. I mean, I think the East, here in Vermont, we had catastrophic flooding last July. We had more flooding in December. And other parts of the country have been dealing with drought for years. And if we're going to be in a situation where parts of the country are really in a situation where they have to view water as a non-renewable resource, where we can find alternatives that limit water usage and conserve water, and it's super important. So yeah, I mean, how many thousands of gallons does it take, to take after you cut down the tree with powdered cellulose, and grind it up, then you have to add water and chemicals to extract it. What's the number?
I don't recall the number. I know that it saves for every million pounds replaced in the industry, it saves over 153,210,000 gallons of water for every million pounds replaced. So we'd have to do some math there to figure it out on a pound per pound
So
replacement. But over 153
a
million
million pounds replaced,
gallons.
it's 153 millions a gallon
Yep.
153 millions a gallon of water saved.
Saved. Yep. Yep.
So we're looking at per pound, 100 150,000 gallons.
Sure. I didn't do that math. I had to pull out the pen and paper.
Yeah, I mean, let's check me here. So I'm not removing zeros was never my strong suit, but if we have 1 million pounds and 153 million gallons of water divided by 1 million, no, 153 gallons of water per pound,
Pound of
of
miscanthus replaced.
that per pound of powdered cellulose replaced by
Correct. Excuse
Miscanthus,
me.
right?
Per pound of
Yeah,
miscanthus used in place of powdered cellulose.
yeah. So, and I don't know what if we look at that, on a per pound basis, how many pounds of Miscanthus would you say goes into the average, 25 to 30 pound bag of pet food?
Oh, you can look on the back of your bag, but I would say the average diet is roughly 4%. So 4 pounds for every 100 pounds of finished product. So 2 50-pound bags would have 4 pounds. So 2 pounds of miscanthus in every 50-pound bag. Approximately.
Okay. So a little over a pound in a 30-pound bag or a pound per 25. So if you are not using a pet food that is using Miscanthus and you were to switch to using to feeding a food or getting your manufacturer to adopt Miscanthus for every 25-pound bag of pet food purchased, you are ostensibly saving 153 gallons of water.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. And then that doesn't even factor in the carbon sequestration benefits. I know, Miscanthus has a really deep root stock too, right?
So the miscanthus grows above the soil about 12 to 15 feet, and below the soil, the root system is roughly the same. So it penetrates hardpan soil types, underperforming soil types, marginal soil types, and really allows water to flow back into it. We've noticed and seen over the years in areas where there was maybe fields that had water trapping ponds, so runoff ponds. Those ponds have all gone dry, not because miscanthus sucked the water out of them, but because water no longer runs off into those ponds. It just penetrates into the soil pan and makes its way into the aquifer instead of running off of the ground. Because miscanthus is opening it back up, it's making the soil more porous again, like it was decades and hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. So why do you think, you mentioned you guys got into pet food with Miscanthus in 2015. You founded the company in 2012. Are there other producers of Miscanthus out there? I mean, M5 is the one I know, and you
Yeah.
seem to be kind of the industry leader. Why do you think the realization of the potential of this grass, why was it hidden for so long?
I think it's like all great things. It just takes time to get it to market. Miscanthus is a native crop of Asia, so it's been used in Asia for a litany of things over the years. The fiber benefits from it. You can find books about, steeping it for tea and things hundreds of years ago. Uh, a lot of things in this country are still using miscanthus for that are not pet related. Paper plates, compostable products, food containers that are non-related to what we do. We just happen to really focus in on pet. We believe that's where we can have an impact and really drive change and bring the sustainability to the marketplace. We believe the customers that are in pet align with who we are and what we're doing. We believe that's where we can drive value for our farmers, drive value for our local communities, our employees, and our team members. So we're the ones that really focus on pet. There's certainly other things and other places in our country where you can find miscanthus being grown and used for. I wouldn't necessarily say that those people are using it for what we're doing for it with it.
Makes sense. And you mentioned, it's native to Asia. I want to make sure people are aware and correct any misperceptions out there. So it's a non-native to the grass is not native to America, but we wouldn't classify it as invasive, correct?
That's correct. So it's certified by the Ohio Seed Improvement Association, which is the leading body, as a non-invasive crop or grass. So people, when you think about invasive, you think about creating seeds and those seeds blowing and growing in places where you didn't establish it. We've established Miscanthus, like I say, since 2012 was when the first planting of it was done within our bounds. We've never seen any creeping or growing. We have tests done regularly. We don't produce a seed. That's what people see, but it's really a flower. Think of it like a rose petal. That's what we produce is a flower, and those flower petals are tested regularly to make sure that they won't germinate, which they won't. So Miscanthus is propagated by rhizome, like a tulip bulb, very similar to a tulip bulb. And that's how we have to plant it. So once you plant it in an area, it stays in an area. And we've had fields come into work with us. And then for litany different reasons, housing developments or whatever, those fields have been taken out. And Miscanthus is a hardy crop, but it can also be removed and killed when done properly.
That's cool. So it has a bulb, and that it so much like a daffodil or a tulip, how then, you mentioned the 30 some odd year lifespan. When a field is exhausted, is there repropagation within the field, naturally occurring so that, if you plant it, maybe a single stalk, a single plant is going to have a 30-year lifespan, but as time goes on, there's new plants that, is it evergreen, or do you have to replant? If you planted a field with Miscanthus, 30 years later, are you going to be out there with bulbs again? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So it's actually a rhizome, not a bulb, similar to how you would treat a tulip, but it's a rhizome. It's lots of people aren't familiar with it, but it's more like the palm of your hand. It has fingers that come off of it, and each of those fingers create stalks that come above ground or shoots. And
Okay.
every year, those rhizomes create new shoots off of the nodes that are under the soil surface. So over time, you get inner plant root ball death is essentially what happens. So if you're used to seeing 20 to 50 stalks per clump and you start seeing that go down, then you'll see your yield go down. So what we do is that goes back to the treatment of it is we don't have to repropagate or replant it. We just have to stir up those rhizomes to cause them to grow again. So cultivate the field. You might disc it. You might things of those natures. But like I say, we planted in 2012. We haven't had to do that yet at this point. We monitor our yield every year. The research shows that you might have to do that every 30 or so years. But we haven't seen it yet because we haven't been out there. So the research is somewhat projected, I guess.
Right. Okay. That makes
But
sense.
no, we
And
won't
and
have
you
to
talk about
replant
like,
it. Just go over the field. Just course cut it, basically. It'd be
okay.
like
And
dethatching your lawn or aerating your lawn. It would be very similar to that.
that makes sense. And kind of tying in, to where this all began, pet sustainability. One of the other talks I found, really enlightening at that conference. We had her on the show following the conference last summer. Was Tina Owens and Green America, and talking about regenerative agriculture. Where does Miscanthus, play in the regen ag movement? Are can you fill us in on that a little bit?
Yeah, so regen ag is a really big topic that has a lot of different things within it. So that's a new space in the industry. We're not currently regen ag certified because we don't rotate crops out. So we're not going to take a traditional food or row crop out, establish grasses for a season or a period of time, reclaim the soil, and then go back into a food crop. And that's what regen ag is. Since we plant once and we don't replant again, potentially forever, or at least the lifetime of our contractual obligations. It doesn't fit within that box yet. So we're working on some stuff with those folks at Regen Ag. Regen Ag is a really good thing. It does a lot of the same. Their goal is to do the same thing for the soil that we do for the soil that Miscanthus does, to really rejuvenate that soil, sequester some carbon, bring that soil back to life, help break up that hard pan, the top layer or two layers of soil to allow water to flow and penetrate through it. All the things that they talk about within Regen Ag and the goals of regenerative ag, Miscanthus does do that. And you mentioned Pet Sustainability Coalition. We are obviously a member of Pet Sustainability Coalition, PSC. As you mentioned, I'm on the board there, a great group of folks, a great team there. But the whole idea behind PSC is collaborative growth for each individual company. So we can get into our own mindsets about sustainability or about ingredient use or about packaging. But if we can come together and collaborate and find the best technology and the best use amongst the industry, we really can elevate the whole industry instead of just elevating one company. And that's what we're about at PSC is that collaboration of community to come together and rise up and take this challenge and hit it head on. So I would encourage your listeners, check out PSC. You can find their accredited companies. So we're an accredited ingredient supplier, which just means we've taken some extra steps to show who we are, what we're doing, and how we're doing it. You can find a whole host of accredited brands of finished pet food for retail use. So your customers or a pet owner, you can choose a brand that has taken a next level commitment and say, I'm going to do these steps and these things to show that I'm committed to making sustainable changes year after year.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a great organization, and I mean we're in a situation right now where the effects of climate change are mounting and compounding every year, and I think it's fairly obvious at this point, with the strange weather patterns we're seeing, with the hottest year on record, we continue to break that record year over year over year. We had almost no snow here in Vermont this winter. I don't think we had a day in Vermont under 0 degrees. It's one of the first times in my life I've seen that. I played golf outside in Vermont in February this year. Um, so we look at what's going on. I think it's incumbent on all of us to do whatever we can to kind of stem the tide and hopefully reverse the tide of climate change. And, whether that's putting solar panels on your house or looking into driving an electric car or otherwise reducing emissions, we all have to do it. But, at the same time, um, our pets are contributors as well. And, if we look at, the dogs and cats of the United States combined are the fifth largest meat consuming country in the world. That's just our dogs and cats. And when you look at the impacts that packaging has, and recycled plastics and things like that, there's definitely an impact that keeping our pets healthy and well nourished and loved like they should be has on the environment. So I think it's super important that organizations like PSC are doing what they can to mitigate and find better solutions to reduce those impacts. And I think like you said, it's not about advancing one brand over the other. It's about finding the best common solution for the industry to reduce our footprint, and make sure that we have a planet that both us and our animals can continue to call home.
A lot of times we can get stuck in this one organization or one person has to do a lot mentality instead of a lot of organizations or a lot of people can do a little and make big impact and drive impactful change. And that's where we're at as an organization, as a member of PSC. That's what we believe in, that really we all have some responsibility to make choices that better align and drive meaningful impact. And those choices don't have to be huge. Making an ingredient swap, and driving it back home to who we are as a finished brand, you can make one ingredient change and really drive some large impact. You don't have to do everything at one time. And I think the same is true for the everyday consumer that's buying these products. You don't have to do everything at one time. You can make small changes that bring impactful change, and really make sure that we're focused on the husbandry treatment of our land and animals, and that we're trusting our farmers to do what's right, and that we're encouraging them to do what's right. And by small changes, we can drive meaningful impact. And we're excited about that. I think that there's a whole host of people in our industry that are excited about that. I think you saw it at Global Pet. And anybody that was there, the sustainability section continues to grow. People are really focused on making meaningful change.
Yeah, and and when it doesn't have to cost more, it's even easier to do. I mean, we are going to get to a point, I think, where as humans and as pet owners, we're going to have to make some hard choices. We're gonna, you may have to spend more to get electric cars. We may have to, you know, all look into putting solar panels on the roofs of our houses, or change the way we shop, or the foods that we eat. But I think you make a very good point. It's important to keep in mind that we aren't going to solve this overnight. And if we allow ourselves to get overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem and just choose not to do anything, that's only going to compound it and make it worse. Every little bit we can do helps, right? And I think, you know, one of the key things that we face in fighting the sustainability battle are for the people who say, you know what, it doesn't matter what I do as an individual because of what China's doing in terms of emissions, or because, you know, not everybody is going to switch, and drive an electric car. If we all think that way, the problem's only going to continue to get worse. Whereas if we think about the little things we can do individually, whether it's, relative to your method of transportation, how you heat your home, what you feed your pets, what you feed yourself, what you do in terms of recycling, all of those things add up. And it doesn't, like you said, doesn't have to be all done on the same day. But if we're all thinking in terms of the incremental steps we can take to address the problems and what we can contribute individually, we're going to get a lot further than if we feel like, oh, I'm just one person, and so what I do doesn't.
Working towards a common goal. And that's why we love being part of PSC. So I will say, if your listeners want more information about Miscanthus, they can check out M Fiber, M, the letter M, FIB.
Yeah. No, that is a great point, Dustin. And definitely everyone check out M Fiber, check out PSC. I think we've touched on the benefits here. You know, read the back of your label. If it has miscanthus on it, you can feel good about the fact that you are keeping more land forested, which reduces carbon. You are contributing to carbon sequestration through the planting of miscanthus crops. You're reducing water usage to the tune of 153 gallons per 25-pound bag of pet food that you feed your pet. So that's some significant environmental impact there, and it all comes from either driving your pet food manufacturer to make the switch to miscanthus if they haven't already, or switching your pet's diet to a manufacturer that is using miscanthus as a fiber. But I think this is one of those things that if not everyone is aware of it, and it's a simple change that we can make that will better the planet in the long run. So I'm super happy we could have you on today, Dustin. I think it's great what you guys are doing. Kudos to all the brands on the wall there that are already using miscanthus, and I'll put the call out both to manufacturers and consumers. Again, I am not a pet food formulator. I'm not an R&D scientist. I'm not a manufacturer, but sitting here as a consultant in the industry and a layperson, it seems like a pretty easy switch to make for better nutritional benefits, half the cost, and the sustainability benefits that go along with it.
Absolutely. And we agree, and we appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you guys and introducing it to your listener base. We're excited to see where it grows and goes, and hopefully in a couple of years we can have another follow-up discussion and just see where it's at.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Well, Dustin, thank you so much for taking the time. Dustin Dover, Chief Operating Officer of M Fiber, everyone. And I'm Peter Kenseth, Vice President and Partner at My Strategy Group here with Petworking. Appreciate you all taking the time to listen today, and we will see you again soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.